welcome, Hoosier fans, to this week's edition of Assembly Call Radio, where each week we discuss the most important topics in the world of Indiana basketball. This is our 222nd edition of Assembly Call Radio, and it is our 722nd episode overall of the Assembly Call, recorded on the evening of August 5th, 2021. I'm your host, Coach Brian Tonsoni. And let's begin this edition of the Assembly Call, how we begin every edition of the Assembly Call, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment.
And Indiana is the national champion.
When it comes down, Indiana will be champion.
Smart takes a shot.
The Hoosiers have won the national championship.
This week's banner moment is about practice. Yes, practice. Last week, the Hoosiers began their allotment of 10 practices before embarking on their trip to the Bahamas. Practice. We talking about practice. These 10 days are just as important as the 2 games Indiana will be playing in the Bahamas. Is a chance to get the Woodson era started and getting on court with the offense and the defensive scheme and get it going. Instead of waiting for a couple months, like most teams, the Hoosiers get to be on the court working together on this new system. Then next Friday and Sunday, they will put that work to use by playing in a real game setting. This is so important for this program. It's important for a program with the new coach. Practice. Yes, practice. Okay, let me introduce my esteemed co-host for tonight. First, to my left.
Analyzing players, finding every wrinkle. He hasn't ever hosted, never lifted a finger. He's got all the
Well, let me quickly add just one thing about this.
Dude just interrupted his own jingle.
What's up, Coach? You gonna
It is Ryan Phillips.
There we go.
It's been a couple weeks. I was checking the audio. Is it recording? And it is.
It's been a week off.
It's been a week. Ryan Phillips.
A couple weeks
What's
off
your
for
rant,
everybody.
Ryan?
We're just getting back into it. You know, we got to practice a little before the season too. No, I think it is the practice situation. I think it's great that they'll be able to get on court for 10 days and really start to work. I mean, especially how important it is for this team with a new coach, new system, new coaching staff. You know, 2 of the 3 assistants are new too. And then so many new players because of the transfer portal, transfers in, transfers out, all of that. You're right, Coach, this is incredibly important over the next 10 days to figure out what this team is, who's going to slot in with what roles, what does the coaching staff have in mind for those roles, not just what can the players do, but what does the coaching staff envision? I think it's insanely important. Now, what happens over this next 10 days won't necessarily be reflective of what happens in the fall when this team hits the floor, but it's a good indicator of what the coaching staff is thinking and where these guys all line up together, how they line up, who they think should play next to each other, who they think should, you know, be off the bench, be starting, whatever. We have no idea who they're picturing for the starting lineup, except for really Trace Jackson Davis being penciled in there. I mean, and probably Race Thompson. So and even then we don't know with the system they're going to be running. So I think really it is important over the next 10 days to really get an indication of what's the plan, because we don't know. We know what the plan is for recruiting and working the transfer portal and the kind of players they want to bring and all that. We have no idea what the on-floor plan is. And so we've heard Mike Woodson talk about it, but in very bland terms. We want to play with tempo. We want to shoot the ball. We want to do this. It has not been very specific. So this next 10 days will really give us an idea, with the practice leaks that come out and things like that, will give us an idea of more where things are headed.
And we're going to talk both this week and probably next week leading into the Friday, Sunday games a little bit more about the Bahamas trip. We have a second segment. We have a piece of that second segment that we'll talk about just basic expectations of a team making a trip like this. So you have that to look forward to later in the show. But now let me introduce a guy who will be in the Bahamas and has been tasked by me to take excellent notes and then to send them to me immediately, since we're only going to get 2 minutes of video from these games. It's Chad Schwarzkopf. We don't have any music for you, and if we did, I'd let it run out and then just stare at the screen anyway. So, Chad, what's your take on Indiana basketball or Indiana athletics at this point of the summer?
Well, like you said, these practices are very important. What I've also is important right now to me in this off-season type of situation is as an assembly call listener and how many years I've been listening to this, I've learned one major thing, and this off-season is your chance, especially the few times that I get on here, to make those crazy accusations, those crazy predictions that hopefully come out towards the end. I've definitely learned that from one of my top 5 favorite hosts of Assembly Call has taught me that. So hold on, I got to get into character for this real quick here. So
Chatty
future has the future has proven me right on just about every occasion, and so I'm telling you this year Jordan Geronimo is going to have a breakout stat this year. There's going to be a stat that he has, be it his 3-point shooting, his points average, his rebounds average. He's going to surprise us this year. We're going to see something amazing out of him. If not, the secondary stat that I'm saying is Race Thompson. Race Thompson's 3-point percentage also is going to skyrocket this year. Put it in the bank. That's going to happen. Record this audio, play it back if I'm right, lose it if I'm wrong. So
sweet lid. I think.
Lid.
Yeah.
I'll share the link where you all can get your own.
There you go.
There you go. Okay, here's what we're going to cover this week.
I really like this version of Chad. I something about this guy. I like the cut of his jib.
Man, Jared didn't tell me that I'd have 2 of you to deal with today when he got a hold of me. But here's what we're going to cover this week. We have some Hoosier headlines. Our main topic will be the Kaleb Banks commitment and the scouting report from Ryan. And then, of course, we'll answer your questions. Again, everyone in the community did a nice job of sending us in some questions. That's coming up this week on Assembly Call Radio. No ad this week, but as you can see, the no free ads for the Big Lead hats are shining brightly today. So, everyone go order one of those hats. But here we go. Here's a Hoosier headlines. A lot of guys are starting to solidify their spots in their recruiting. And Jalen Hood-Schifino has IU in its top 5. Malik Renault, IU in the top 7, and Bryce Sensabaugh in the top 8. So Coach Woodson and staff are really doing a nice job of getting to these guys and talking to them, and they like what they hear. That doesn't mean they're going to pull the trigger and all come to IU, but it's nice that we're getting into some of these finals for guys that I think can come in here and help Coach Woodson turn the Indiana program around. Also, I think it's Sean Burke, 6'3" preferred walk-on, was added to the roster this week. Noah Clowney announced that he is planning an official visit, a big guy. Ryan says that we need to always get some more big guys. That would be someone to add to the mix. The Crossroad Classics will come to an end after this year. 2021 will be the last season where the 4 major Power 5 teams got together and played. And we'll get some thoughts on that. We did have another game scheduled. Northern Illinois was added to the non-conference slate. And the big one, obviously, is Kaleb Banks, 6'8", 3'4", wherever you want to play him, athlete. He commits to the Hoosiers, and in segment 2, we'll talk about him and what he'll bring to the Hoosiers. Also, you got a lot of IU athletes in the Olympics. That's been fun to watch the last 2 weeks. Really proud of our athletes there. Football camp is opening. We know the excitement with the football, and the NIL shirts are popping up all over the place. Get your shirts to support these players as you like. Ryan, anything there that you'd like to discuss here in our first segment?
Well, first of all, go to shop.minutemedia.com to get the Big Lead hat. Scan down the left side to the Big Lead, and you can look as snappy as Chad does right now. No, I think the Crossroads Classic coming to an end was really the big story since we last had a show. And I was going to ask you guys what your favorite memory from the Crossroads Classic was, because look, it was an interesting concept that could have worked. I think it would have worked better if there was a tournament aspect to it. You played 2 games. The problem is they don't want to have 2 Big Ten teams potentially playing, 2 conference foes potentially playing in the final. And so I think that was really always the stumbling block for the Crossroads Classic. So, but do you guys have favorite memories? What's your favorite memory from those?
Mine has to be the ending when Mike Roberts got that rebound and passed it off to Juwan, and Juwan laid that up.
That was Mick Roberts.
Mick Roberts, excuse me, Mick Roberts, McBob. That's easily my favorite memory, but I think you nailed it there. It was always a good place for a few select players to have breakouts and for some reason be extremely hot only there in Bankers Life. So maybe if we supplement that with another game up there and just stay in that stadium. But yeah, you're right. I think it was time for it to go. We can utilize that spot in the schedule a little bit better.
Rob Finnessy hit a big shot late.
2018,
to win a game was a good memory there. The thing I liked about it is Indiana had scheduled Butler in the regular season. They had scheduled Notre Dame in the regular season before, and this brought a little bit of that classic feel to it. If you're going to do that in the regular season anyway, alternated or whatever, I would have loved to have seen it expand and move to a different date because I do think it clogged up Indiana's scheduling to be in bigger classics like this. But you have some other smaller schools that you could make it a 4-game complete Saturday or even a Friday, Saturday thing with your Valpos, Ball States, IUPUI, Indiana State, and just make it a real tournament feel for Indiana that, basketball's big in the state of Indiana. That's what I'm going to miss. I liked having all of the big teams together. The crowds were down in Indianapolis, that feel for it. But I do think, things have its time and place, and I think the Crossroads Classic has done so. And it's time if Indiana's really going to make a push, they may have to schedule some bigger, not better competition because those teams are good, but just stretch out their scheduling a little bit more and not be tied into that because you're tied into the other conference tournaments. So, Ryan, your favorite?
It was one of those two that you guys suggested. I would say the Finnessy buzzer beater was awesome. I mean, that was just a cool moment, unexpected as well, and probably my favorite moment from that. I did love the Juwan Morgan put layup as well off the McRoberts rebound. That's another great one. Other than that, there weren't a ton of great finishes. It was sort of with a minute left, you knew who was going to win, but those were the two sort of crazy finishes that were really cool.
Any thoughts on the recruiting, getting in these top 5s and top 7s and top 8? Chad, your thoughts on seeing that on Twitter and being announced?
It's awesome to be in those tops, and we're going to see that a lot just because of what this coaching staff has to offer and their selling point. I think the only thing people have been really critical and concerned with a few of the misses that have happened. But I think where kind of IU is standing right now with recruiting and where it is probably with some of these guys and why we might see some of those misses right now is that these players have not seen a Woodson team play. Once those wins start happening, once they can see game play happen, we're going to win those a lot more. But with that being said, not having any of that game tape for those guys to see and everything, it's amazing to be in those top lists.
Yeah, I think it's a good sign that the message is getting out, and I agree with you about not seeing exactly how the system's going to be, and you want to make sure that you fit that system. I just think it's also timing. These guys have had relationships with some of these other programs in the top 5, top 7, top 8 a lot longer. And it says a lot to me about the message coming from the Indiana staff that you're getting a lot of guys, and we missed on some. Obviously, the big guy went to Duke. What was his name? Filipowski. And Carabon just went to UConn. So everyone that you're out and offer is not going to come to IU. That's just part of it. But the other thing that I'm impressed with, and I'll throw this to Ryan, is Coach Ya's doing a good job of building relationships. It just seems
you knew that would
like
be the case too.
That's the dude who's going to send us all across the country, and that's looking like a better hire each and every day.
Yeah, and he's known for that. That's sort of, we knew that would be the case with him, that he's going to be a guy that's kids react to and really builds those relationships. So it'll be really interesting to see how this finishes, because I don't think there's a consensus on, this guy's eventually going to commit to Indiana. It's sort of like there's an opening of, it could be this guy, it could be any number of 5 guys that wind up committing, and it does help to have CJ Gunn in your back pocket, and obviously Kaleb Banks we're going to talk about pretty soon in your back pocket. But at the same time, there's other guys you got to add. I mean, those are two out guys that are outside the top 100. You need to add a signature player in this class, and it's your first full class. You got to add one. And this staff knows that. That's not. I'm not saying anything crazy or insulting to them. They know that, and they've gone after some guys. They've missed on some guys, and they need to hit on one of these bigger names.
Yeah, I think the Hood Schifino thing is one I'm watching really big. That I think that would be a really good get. And what's also interesting is with the transfer portal and all of that, and this extra year with the COVID, is what roster size is going to be like, and what the size of the class is going to be. Those are all interesting things that I think you're going to see with recruiting.
Well, and I think one thing, Coach, to add to that is that I think you're going to start seeing a lot bigger class sizes across the country because of the transfer portal and the ease of that now, is that you're going to have to prepare for, you're not going to be able to say like, we're going to leave 2 open spots and take 2 this year and worry about getting a bigger class next year. You're not going to be able to defer that because you're going to have guys going in and out of your lineup. Yeah. I think the transfer portal, maybe a few years into this wild west of transfer portal, stuff that we've got right now, I think it's going to calm down eventually, and you're going to have guys sticking it out. I just think for right now, this is the new process for everybody. And as everybody's getting adjusted to it, I think kids are taking advantage of it far more than coaches would certainly like. I think we're going to see a little bit of regression there, and I think we're going to see it come back down to earth a little bit, but it's certainly something you have to prepare for every day, as a college head coach now.
Yeah. Any thoughts? Indiana adds Northern Illinois to the schedule. I think that's 9 of the 11. And right now there's only 3, Syracuse, Notre Dame, and who am I forgetting? No, St. John's. There's a little bit of pressure, I think, to add some games that will carry a little bit for the NCAA committee. Some teams go with only 3, tough games, and then plan on winning in their conference. I would like to see IU add a couple heavyweights, or not real super heavyweights, but just tougher opponents with the last couple slots. Chad, your thoughts on where Indiana's schedule sits right now?
It's in a comfortable spot right now for a first-year coach. It's been planned out well. I think they're doing a good job with it. But I agree with you that I'd like to see maybe a tougher one thrown in there. Like you said, when it comes down to it, if you add a tier 1, then if it's a loss, one that's not going to hurt you if it's a loss, but one that could really propel you if you pull it out and win. Other than that, I've liked what they've been doing with it. Northern Illinois is a decent ad. A MAC school, a fairly decent team. I don't know how they did last year. I haven't really looked into them as much. Do you know much about them, Coach, from this past year?
The schedule is of these smaller schools is not the 300 levels that really kill your strength of schedule. They're not bad schools. It's still, you need to beat some really good teams to really make a dent in the committee's eyes. If you only have 3, you almost have to go 3-0 or 2-1 in those big games and not lose any, because the Big Ten is always going to be tough. And you go 11-9, 10-10, that makes it tough. So it'll be interesting. I do understand when you're a first-year coach that it's not going to be the most complex schedule with all the heavy hitters in there. That would be a disservice too, because you got to build confidence and you got to get some wins. So I think where they've done a good job is a Northern Illinois, a Louisiana. Some of those are not cupcakes. You're going to have to play well to win, but you should win somewhat comfortably. They've done a good job there, but on the heavy end, I think it's way too light. Ryan, any thoughts? I know we'll talk schedule once it comes out, but any thoughts before we take a break?
It feels like they got to do something. They got to add somebody, and I don't know what that's going to look like, but it feels like something's missing when you look at that schedule. And I think you're both right that it'd be nice to add a heavyweight, to create a showcase matchup, maybe at Assembly Hall in Woodson's first season to get some attention on campus with a heavyweight, since they're not, going to be, they're not at home in the Big Ten ACC Challenge this year, right? It's at Syracuse.
That's Syracuse.
Yeah, I thought so, but I wasn't 100% sure. So you don't have a marquee preseason game on campus, or a non-conference game on campus. I think you got to find one, and I think that something to draw attention to get the TV in Assembly Hall with a packed crowd and talking about how great the program is. I mean, think about what that does for the program every time. Every time Indiana plays Duke in the Big Ten ACC Challenge at home, it's a big deal. Or they play North Carolina, it's a big deal. And I think you've got to create that atmosphere, especially with the first year of a new coach.
Well, and I think I have a lot of trust in the staff, because what I always keep forgetting about the quiet voice in the background that's going on is Thad Matta. You got to know that Thad is working on this or thinking about this, and I trust that he's going to make the right decision if he is one that's helping do that or guide things in the proper way of that. He's got plenty of experience doing that and building schedules. So,
Ryan, you don't think St. John's is must-see basketball in Assembly Hall?
I got a friend here who went to St. John's, and even he doesn't think that's a marquee matchup.
I hear you. Okay, coming up on next segment, we're going to talk recruiting and Kaleb Banks' scouting report from Ryan and what he does best. So stick with us here on the Assembly Call. All right, good segment one. I did remember to pause the recording as I'm getting back in the swing of things. It's been about a month since I've hosted, so didn't check the instruction sheet. Hey, you're muted.
Been a while since I've hosted too, buddy.
I know it's been, it just seemed like yesterday where you were at the big lead. Buy your hats, by the way. You have time now, about 2 or 3 minutes, to just open up a tab. Go buy yourself a nice lid. Support Ryan so he can get some razors.
Shop.minutemedia.com, folks. Go on there. You'll love it. There's hoodies, there's hats, there's shirts. Go nuts.
They're big head friendly. I've got a big noggin, so they fit.
They
well.
are. We have a couple guys on the site with a big. I have a normal shaped head. I'm not, but my two best friends have enormous heads, and they work. What's your hat size, Chad?
Like over 7.5.
Wow. Holy cow.
Or right around that.
If you ever feel like it's too big, my buddy is an 8.
Like this is on 3. I've got 3 clicks.
I got the fitted, so it works for me. I don't know. You might bust through it.
I can't trust the fitted. The
elastic.
Put that on.
You put that on, it's just gonna fray immediately.
Yeah. I've got a box that I have set off to the side that when I get a new hat that's elastic or something, I set it on that for a couple of days to stretch it out. Lots of brain.
So Chad, when do you take off for the Bahamas?
Thursday. Leave Thursday. Yep.
Nice.
So yeah. Got the travel health visa. Anyone else that's going, make sure you go get that figured out. They've just kind of added new things where you got to get tested too. So
yeah, that was that way for Hawaii when we went. I figured it would be that way for.
Yeah. At first, if you're vaccinated, you don't have to get tested. And I got the visa for that. But then suddenly they're saying now everyone needs to test. But then Jay posted something saying that now if you've already been approved, you don't have to be tested or something. But I'm not going to trust it. I'm going to get the test.
Yeah, just do it anyway.
Yeah.
I have to do it for work all the time for commercial shoots. So I've pretty much got a deli punch card with a local place here.
Yeah, for Hawaii, we had to go to a drive-through testing place at University of California, San Diego, which is like 5 blocks from where I live. And my parents and I and Madeline all do it. Madeline did it at a CVS, and then my mom and dad and I actually wound up getting appointments at the exact same time. So we all just went together in a drive-through, and they just literally went around to every window of the car. And
that's the one that I go to. I've gotten it so much that I know now when I see the Q-tip where they're going. If it's the small little bristly one, they're going to tickle the brain. But if it's a bigger one, they're just
the middle of the nose. Yeah,
kind of touching in there.
There was one. I was amazed. There's a testing center that I've had to use a couple times. One for like a few days, I just didn't feel well, and I was like, "Well, I'm getting a COVID test. I'm not going to go see anybody because I was seeing my parents a lot, and they're in their 70s." And I was like, "Well, I'm not going to go see them if I'm not sure." And then another time I got a test because we thought we had been exposed, but weren't. I mean, we wound up not being, and the person who we thought we'd been exposed to didn't have it either. It's at University of San Diego here. And it's in a parking structure, and you walk in. It is literally it. I timed it. It took 9 minutes from the time I left my car to the time I got tested and got back to my car. They have some of them are run so well. It's incredible. And I did that twice.
The one that I go to, it's a tent. It's a pop-up tent that you drive through and everything. They do your nose. I've been able to get through pretty quick. Although this last job that I just started today, it took an hour to get tested. Oh wow! Because the Delta variant, everyone's out.
How soon do you get your results? Do you get them?
This place, a lot of the shoots organize something special with them, and they get it the very next day.
Yeah, everyone I've done has been 24 hours.
Yeah, but it tends to average between 24 to 48.
Yeah, there's some places with these with tests you have to pay for that are much like higher quality. I guess from what I understand is they can get it back in 12. From what I've heard, but everyone
ones, we've had
everyone
shoots
I've
like
done
that.
has been 24 hours.
We've had shoots where we have the actual person there, and you'll test in the parking lot of the base camp for the shoot, right. And then you just go back to your car and you wait, and then they text you when your test comes through and that you're clear, and then you just go to work from there. But I stopped counting. I'm over 40, so
oh my goodness,
easily. So
all right,
I haven't not once.
You haven't been tested.
A nose virgin over here.
Yep, been vaccinated, wear my masks, and teach. So, all right, here we go. Segment 2.
Let's do it.
This is Jordan Halls, and I never miss a shot or an episode of the Assembly Call.
Welcome back to the Assembly Call. How do you keep up with the fire hose of information that comes out almost every day about IU basketball? It's just crazy during the offseason. It gets even crazier during the season. Well, we've got your back. We send out a free weekly email newsletter on Sunday mornings. It rounds up the most important and interesting IU basketball stories from the previous week to keep you up to date on your Hoosiers. Over 8,000 of your fellow IU fans are on the list, and we want you to be there too. So go to join.assemblycall.com to subscribe for free right now. That's join.assemblycall.com. You can also text IU to 66866. That's IU to 66866. Okay, I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni. I'm here with Chad Schwarzkopf and Ryan Phillips. And Ryan, known for his player scouting reports, we have a new recruit, Kaleb Banks. Ryan, just tell us the general look of Kaleb Banks, is kind of his height, weight, and some of his strengths. And then Chad and I will pepper you with some questions about the newest recruit for the Indiana Hoosiers.
Yeah, Kaleb Banks out of Fayette County High School in Fayette County, Georgia. He's a 3 or 4 star, depending on where you look, sort of in that range, though, high 3, low 4 star, 123rd on the 24/7 sports composite. Obviously, it's early. We'll see if that changes, if he moves up. It depends where you look. Like, he's listed at 6'8", but a lot of people say, no, that the kid's 6'7", like at most. He's about 215 pounds. Clearly needs to add some weight. Sort of I think he wants to play as a small forward, but as I'll get into, he kind of looks like a power forward right now with the way he plays, and it's really going to be on him to really, if he wants to play a perimeter style. He mentioned Carmelo Anthony repeatedly when discussing, what Mike Woodson showed him and what they envisioned for him. Woodson obviously coached Carmelo Anthony with the Knicks, so if that's the kind of guy he wants to be, he's got some work ahead of him to get there. So I would currently list him as a power forward, sort of an undersized 6'7" power forward, 6'8" maybe. But he clearly believes that he's a small forward in the long run.
Chad?
Yeah, it's something you say that with the Carmelo Anthony thing, and as I've watched some highlights and stuff too, they show doing a lot of outside shooting. He's trying to do that, and he makes them pretty good. Obviously, they're highlights. I'm not going to show them this is, but what's your thoughts on his shots, Doc?
One thing I've seen is in catch and shoot situations, which usually is the most of his shots are in catch and shoot. He's not a dribble pull up guy. And most of his situations are catch and shoot, and his right foot's a little bit too far forward on his shot. Again, some guys that works for. It's not Christian Lander, where his left leg looks like it's 10 feet in front of his back leg, or his right leg. So he is a little shifted, sort of off, not square to the basket. In some more recent highlights, he's not doing that as much. So you can tell maybe that's a piece of emphasis for him is to straighten out and get more square. His upper body, he does get his body underneath him on his shot. When he catches it, you definitely see a little lowering and settles himself as opposed to just standing straight up and firing. So he gets his body under him, gets a little flow and a little height to the shot as a result of that. He does have really good wrist action. He snaps it off. The ball does get backspin as a result. He gets it off his fingertips. He's not a guy who shoots from his palm, which is, unfortunately with as much ball handling as guys are doing these days, you're supposed to ball handle with your fingers, but a lot of guys ball handle with their palm, and they try and move the ball from side to side and all that. And that means when they go for the shot, the ball is settled in the palm. It's a lot harder to get more lift and spin on it. You get lift and spin just like a baseball. You get it off of your fingertips. And so he's doing that. I think that he finishes really high on his shot in a good way. He's a little bit out, but it's a high finish. It's not a horizontal finish. It's not really a smooth action right now, which tells me that he's trying to develop into a shooter and has a lot going on in his head. It's not just catch smoothly, go up on instinct. You see that with a guy like Miller Kopp. You watch Miller Kopp's shot. He's been shooting for a very long time at a very high level. You can just tell watching him. He does rush shots and leans back. You watch his high school highlights. He doesn't do that. Against good competition in these AAU tournaments, he's rushing his shot a little bit. And that happens. It happens to a lot of good shooters who go to college basketball. They rush their shots in their first year, maybe first year and a half, because they're not used to guys being that athletic, that tall, and that quick closing out to them. So they're trying to get it up so they don't get blocked. And he does the same thing. And leaning back again on your shot is another indication of you're being closed out on. You're expecting to be closed out on. You're not jumping through the shot. And that when you lean back or you rush a shot, you're going to flatten it out or you're going to overshoot it. One of the two. You never shoot it perfectly when you're rushing like that. So I think he just needs reps and work on his shot. That's all. I think there are the makings of a good shot, but he needs to get in with somebody who knows how to shoot and start working on that stuff.
He mentioned in one of the articles, and I would give credit to Inside the Hall reading, where he thought he could play the pick and pop or he could play coming off ball screens. What's his downhill game? What's his ball handling game like at this moment?
He's a decent finisher. He's a pretty good finisher. And one thing that impressed me on film is how he really angles his body in traffic to get around guys to make sure he can get a good shot. Angle around and get the ball off the backboard instead of, you get bumped and you're fading and trying to, throw something wild up off the glass. He gets in there, gets in a good position to stick it off the glass and finish. He's a really he wants to dunk. If he's gonna, if he gets a clear lane, he's dunking. Like there's no soft fancy layups with him. He's either driving and has a guy on him and he puts it off the glass, or he's gonna finish in your face. And the other thing about him is, well, I think his ball handling is actually pretty good for his age and his size. It's got to get tighter. It has to get tighter with every high school player. There are very few high school players who come in to college and can ball handle the way they need to, just because there's better defenders you're going to be facing who are going to swipe it from you if it's at all loose. I think there's a little, when he's driving, it's not bad. But when I see him sort of setting a guy up, that's when the opportunity to steal is. Once he's on the move, it's pretty good. But it's making his move where that's where a guy's going to reach in and steal it from you. He is really good at just getting to the rim. And I think that's what impressed me maybe the most about his whole game is that when he starts a drive, he's not going to be bumped off of his path. He's going to find a way to get there. And so I think in the pick and roll, if he has lanes, he's going to be great. And also if he's the roll man, I think he's going to be really good. He is not going to be bumped off his track to get there. Again, with the caveat that in the Big Ten, he's going to have to be stronger to get there, but the instincts are proper in that regard. He's also aggressive off the dribble. I love the way he's aggressive off the dribble. That was one of the things that really impressed me and I thought was the best part of his game, is that he's going to look to score. Whether he succeeds or not, he's looking to do something, as opposed to, if he's facing a good defender, he's just going to let him bump him off and pass it out and recycle. He wants to get something done.
So you kind of mentioned it there too a little bit, but the Big Ten obviously being physical and everything, it looks like he has that frame to put on weight and can take that well. Any other additional thoughts to that in his game and how that's going to translate in a physical Big Ten?
He could easily put on 25 pounds, I think. I mean, he's 215. He's listed at 215. I don't know what he really is, but I think there is enough size there for him to put on a solid 20. And maybe it limits his athleticism a little bit, but the frame is not the problem. It's just He's a 17, 18-year-old kid who needs to put on weight. I mean, like there's no, but he's certainly got broader shoulders. He's got the torso that can handle weight. He's got the legs that can handle weight, certainly. And, the other thing that I want to mention here is the one thing that's great about him, whether he's 6'7" or 6'8", he's got a 7'2" wingspan. And he gives off, when he's playing, he gives off some OG Anunoby vibes about, now I'm not saying he's going to be not saying he's going to be an NBA player, but no, I mean, just the fact that he's got that athleticism and he's got those long arms. Now, OG Anunoby, the difference, he developed on a great track. So obviously there's a lot of work the player has to do here. But you're looking at him and thinking, okay, maybe he can defend on the wing. Maybe he doesn't score like a wing player right now and doesn't shoot like a wing player right now, but he certainly has the wingspan to be a versatile defender. And from what I've seen, he's a willing defender and an aggressive defender in traffic, things that having those instincts is a big positive. So I think with the size, we saw OG Anunoby put on a ton of weight when he got to Indiana. You saw that guy's thighs. They were enormous, and they were not when he stepped on campus. But he had that wingspan. He had that height and that versatility that wingspan can allow you to have, and the athleticism. So I think there's a similar track there, is that he's a guy who, that's the model for him, is to develop on that track. Maybe not leave after his sophomore year, but develop into that kind of guy who's a versatile wing who can maybe shoot it a little, can get to the rim, and can finish at the rim, especially, which is what I think his strength is.
Well, and one thing I noticed about his game as I watch now, that it's hard to watch these highlights and get too much footage of these guys, because again, they're highlights, but sometimes I'll look for their other teammates' highlights or something like that. And then I'll see, what is he doing when he's not the focus? How is he moving without the ball? Where is he putting himself? And from what I've seen of him, I do like his movement off the ball. He's putting himself in the right position. He's ready to accept. He's never standing in one spot unless he's in that shooting position. He
has an idea what to do on a basketball court. And there are sometimes you get an athletic guy who's just an athletic guy, and you've got to turn him into a basketball player. I feel like Banks has some basketball instinct. And I think, is he a finished product? Absolutely not. But he needs to get to that next level. But there are, when you're playing pickup basketball, perfect example for people out there, you're playing pickup basketball. There are guys who know how to play basketball, and there are guys who don't, who just like to go out there and shoot around and all that. The guys who know how to play basketball, it's a lot easier to work with them if you also know how to play basketball. That is the same thing on a whole different level when you get to college. There are guys who come in and automatically know, oh, well, if this happens in the offense, that means I've got to go there. And so you don't have to teach them. You don't have to hold their hand through every step of a practice or a play. Happens in high school, coach. I know you know it, that you don't have to explain. If you're running a play, you're like, hey, we're implementing some new offense today. We're going to run this play. You don't have to hold everybody's hand through every step. There are some guys you do, but the guys who don't and who automatically know, oh, well, if he's setting a screen for me here, I can look at the floor. And even without you telling me what spot on the floor I'm supposed to go to from this point, I know because of how the offense is set up and how the defense will be set up. Those guys are so much easier to put into a team concept. And there's not a whole lot of teaching that needs to go on there. I think Banks is one of the guys who has an idea what he's doing on the floor and what everybody else is doing on the floor. Is he the highest IQ guy, basketball IQ guy that Indiana's ever recruited? No. But it's better than guys who just are out there and are athletic and running around and just displaying their athleticism. I think he understands basketball.
Well, I think you cracked something big there, mentioning the basketball IQ. That's going to be very important in the recruits for Woodson, because as it's been said already, Woodson's wanting to implement some high-level basketball IQ, some NBA type of stuff.
Yes.
And if you have guys that have that already baked into them, there's a step you don't have to overcome.
For sure. And that is going to be important for the guys he brings in. I think he wants to bring in really good athletes, but just bringing in good athletes doesn't win you basketball games. Having smart guys who know what they're doing, know where to be, know, hey, at this point of the shot clock, I need to go set a screen for somebody because we got nothing going on, instead of, well, I'll just cut here into nowhere and be, there are times where guys get lost on the floor, and smarter guys don't get lost on the floor very often. They just don't, and they know to help others out.
He said in the article that he thought he could guard the 1 through 4, which if you're playing some switching defenses, if you're playing some ball screen coverages that are, a little unique to the NBA type of style, but you're going to bring it What's his level of athleticism? And I know you don't see defensive highlights in AAU, but what do you think he can bring defensively once he gets going here at IU?
I think he needs to unlock some more flexibility to be able to guard a one. But again, that's what you get in a college weight program for, is not just putting on weight, but flexibility and durability and all of those things. I'd put him at a 2 through 4 right now. Emphasis on the 3 and the 4. But again, nowadays you're just kind of like, there's a point guard, 3 perimeter guys, and a center. That's kind of the way basketball is. So I think he can guard the perimeter guys, guard the wings. I do think he's a little undersized to be straight up on a 4 if it's a big 4. But I think that his athleticism and, again, that wingspan can make up for a lot that you lack in height. And so I do think that there's something there. I think that he also, I want to mention this, is that he has it in him to be an excellent rebounder because of that athleticism, because of that wingspan. I've seen him be a willing rebounder off the ball in clips of his teammates, Chad, and zipping outlet passes and things like that. I think that that's something that'll be interesting. And I want to also say that another thing that doesn't really show up, it shows up on defensive highlights, is he runs the floor in transition even if he's not getting the ball. And that is important for a guy of his size and length. Get out in transition and dunk the ball. We've talked about it since Cody Zeller was on this program, since Cody Zeller was playing for Indiana, which God is a long time ago, and I don't like thinking about that. But here's the thing: you run the floor, you're going to gain extra points. I mean, you just are, because not everybody. That's the simplest thing in the world to run back on defense and to run on offense. If the opposing team is not, if everybody on offense is running the floor, you're going to get extra buckets. If you're a big man, obviously not talking about Banks here, but if you're a big man that runs the floor and you're in high school, and you're going to get 4 to 10 extra points a game just by running the floor ahead of everybody. And Cody Zeller showed that every time. He was one of the first guys down the floor. Banks runs the floor. Even if he's not going to score, he'll go to a corner, he'll cut through the lane or he'll run through the lane. If he doesn't get it, he's out to the perimeter, or he posts up. Like he knows to run the floor. And I think that's a big deal, especially if Woodson wants to do more in transition. So I think that's a big deal moving forward for what they want to do. And
here's the thing.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing that kind of impressed me, and words are words until you get into the college game and get weights and start playing. Do we really know? The proof is in the pudding. But he even said that he's willing to guard the 5 if he put on some more weight. So you said he's guarding 2 through 4 right now, and he's willing to guard the 1 and willing to guard the 5. As a defensive-minded guy, I kind of like bringing that guy in. He's hungry to guard. And you said he's a willing rebounder, and then you said he's willing to run the floor. I know he's 123 in the composite rankings right now. I saw something on Twitter today. Some source said he was like 74 or 73. What is the reason he is in the 120s? And we all look at those way too seriously. A lot of players come in the 150s, develop into great players, and some are in the 50s and don't develop at all. Top 50. So talk about that ranking a little bit. Is it something to be concerned about? Is he going to be able to come in and within the first year? Is he a development guy? What do you see at this moment?
I think he's a bench guy to start. I mean, solidly. I don't even think that's in dispute. I think he's coming off the bench to start. I don't know how high. He's a guy who can develop. He needs to develop into his physical gifts. And as he reaches basketball maturity, sort of, I don't think anybody is looking at his game and being like, "Oh, that guy's starting in the Big Ten as a freshman." No, it's not that. He's not Tamar Bates. He's not. He doesn't have that star quality to him as he's stepping on campus. What I think is keeping him down, and I followed him for a little bit, is he's not performing against top competition in these big showcases. He has the ability to, but he hasn't put it together yet. You see games in AAU tournaments where he's 11 of 30 or 11 of 25 from the field, like things like that, not hitting 50% of his 3-pointers, not putting it all together. He has the ability to. It's a matter of making it work on the floor. And some of that is, who are your AAU teammates? Are you playing teams that are way better than you? Are they focusing on you as the first option to defend you? Are they, what is it? But I think that is the reason. And you're seeing, like, he'll have a good game and then he'll struggle for a couple games, and then have a good game and struggle for a couple. I don't think he's an up and down guy. I think the problem is he's just got to get better against that better competition. I don't think he's the high school version of Rob Finney, where he comes out and is like, "Oh, he's amazing," and then disappears for 3 games. I just think he's not used to playing against that high level of competition that much. And I think that a lot of guys in AAU struggle with that. And so I think that that's really the reason, is against great competition. And also he's kind of doesn't have a position right now. Like if you were to take me right now, ask me what he is right now, he's a paint player, not a versatile wing. He's a guy who's going to score in the paint. That's what he is for you. He's not a guy who's going to step out on the perimeter and be able to balance out his game out there right now. That's what you hope for eventually, is that he's a versatile offensive player. But right now he's a guy who scores in the paint. And that's much easier to defend than a guy who can step out, hit shots consistently, and score in the paint. And so I think that's part of the reason, especially with how important three-point shooting is in basketball these days. You got to be able to do that to get ranked high. You got to be versatile offensively to get ranked high. And so, again, we don't know what he's going to develop into. His senior year's coming up. How good is he going to get? But as of right now, I think that's why. I think that not performing against top-level competition and not being a versatile offensive player is what's holding it back.
All right. Any last thoughts on our newest Hoosier, Kaleb Banks, before we take a break and head to the questions? We'll save the Bahamas talk for. There's some questions in segment 3. I'm excited about this young man. I think you always need some guys that need to have some upside. There's been some talk in the chat. Obviously, you want top 50 guys. Those guys are going to be better just naturally. But I'm not a big rankings guy. If you're 120, 123, can come in willing to develop, willing to play team basketball, I think you can help a program win, and that excites me. I do think you still need to be shooting for the top guys. So
I agree. As far as my final thought on him, okay, we'll address it next.
I just stopped it real quick there.
Okay. Good job, Coach.
Yeah.
You're on your game today. But just my final thoughts is I think he's a good player. I think he's a solid addition. Do I think that he is a game-changing recruit? No. He's got to, hopefully that's what he turns into. There have been, again, plenty of guys who have come in and been way better than they looked. But I think that, definitely developing a shot, adding some weight, adding some strength are going to be huge for Banks. I think if he consistently can knock down 35% of his threes in the game, but in high school, 40%, that 40% won't translate to college basketball, but 35 to 40% of his high school 3-pointers, I think he jumps tremendously up the rankings because he just shows he can do much more. And if he checks the box at actually being 6'8", again, that's a pretty big wing if you can get him in there. So I think that's where we're at right now with him. I think he's a nice player. I think he's got a lot of developing to do. Welcome,
Kaleb. We support you, and we look forward to you being on campus next summer and helping out the Hoosiers. Coming up in our third segment, I don't have any subscriber shout-outs, although I'm going to share an interaction I had with an Assembly Call fan, and then we're going to answer your basketball questions. And stick around for more here on the Assembly Call. Ari, sorry about that little blip there. If you want to go find it and cut it, you can, or you can just leave it in there. Our listeners are so used to us having some bloopers embedded in that. Should be all right.
I wasn't going to make it any longer, but one other thing I just wanted to say on him, I'll say it in this off segment, that I noticed is he is one of my favorite things that Rob does really well, and he helps on defense really well and has very active hands and digs in on the, if he's close guarding his guy, he doesn't hesitate to dig in. He's got good hands in that sense. Digging in on other players that have the ball, whether they be in the post or on the outside too. I've seen there was a highlight in a recent highlight film where he helps the guard, comes over and helps knock it loose, and they go on a fast break. So very active. The foundation is there for him. He's a foundation player. He already has those things and we can build from there.
This may not, I don't know, a little irrational early in this tenure, but Coach Ya, if he has a relationship with someone and worked with someone, I kind of trust him already. He's not going to bring in someone that he doesn't think can play at a high level. I think he's just on his way to be a real solid, and Coach Hunter is the same way. The concern I have with Xavier is, he had some trouble with some technicals and and he and the coach didn't see eye to eye, and that needs to improve. Well, he's got Coach Hunter here, who had a relationship with initially when Coach Hunter was at. These assistants are I think, just really knocking it out of the park so far. And not that it's up to me to have any trust or not. I just think they're doing a pretty good job.
Well, and if you just want to drive that home anymore, just to promote our friends, the Hoosier Hysterics, their recent podcast with Coach, and then almost all the other assistants chime in there and come in and just all the stuff you hear about it, and how much even just the coaches are bought in. And Coach Yaw is one of those as well. He says many times that he wanted to play for Bob Knight. It was a dream of his to play for Bob Knight, but it didn't happen. So he's got that love and that foundation as well. Foundation talk.
Which is good stuff. Appreciate everyone being here. Got a lot of good conversations going on so fast in the chat mob. I can't keep up to it when I'm running the show, but we appreciate you guys. Been great all summer. I know we've taken a couple of weeks off, which have been refreshing and gives us a chance to recharge. So thanks for your patience through that. And we're ready for.
It's interesting. Let me point out what Tyler said in there. Tyler looked up, I guess, if Hood committed to IU right now, IU would have the 5th best class in the nation. That's impressive.
Yep. Yes, it is. And I know you're going to miss. I know there's misses out there. You got to limit those, and you just got to keep fighting.
Yeah, it really, you do have to hit on those, and you have to hit on the high level players who are close to home. I mean, that you're just more likely to do that. And so
the Jalen Washington one kind of stings.
That really stings.
Just from a talent aspect, it's understandable from a relationship standpoint. I mean, Woodson's been hired since May, and the staff's been together since May. A little disappointing that maybe he wasn't in the top or got down for a visit or things like that. But that's the uphill struggle, is you're trying to catch up to a year and a half of letter writing and stuff like that. And as Chad mentioned, no one knows your style of play yet. It's all a guess. So we just got to keep fighting.
I've got a lot more forgiveness for it this year, for this class, at least myself, and then with the comfort of the transfer portal.
Yeah,
as a blanket.
We'll see where it lands here in the future. All right, let's get going on section 3. All right, here we go.
This is Nick Zeisloft. I never miss an open 3, and I never miss an episode of the Assembly Call.
Hi, I'm the coach Brian Tonsoni, back here with Chad Schwartzkopf and Ryan Phillips as we discuss Indiana basketball here at the beginning of August. And it's segment 3. And we didn't have any official subscriber shout outs, but I'm going to talk. I got a direct message from a young man who's an avid listener of the show. And this is what's great about being on the show, and all of you guys in the chat mob and everyone who listens, that we do appreciate when you reach out to us and emails or direct message. But this is a young upcoming songwriter in Nashville, Tennessee. Direct message and saw a tweet that I liked country music, and we've started to exchange some conversation, and it's really been nice. Sam Johnson, I want to give you a shout out just because it's been great to get to know you as much as you can through direct message. And he has given me some up and coming Nashville artists. And I went to a concert and saw Cameron Marlowe play the opening act for Brad Paisley. And that was one of the guys that he said, you got to start listening to, and absolutely love Cameron Marlowe now. But Sam's a good dude. I wish him luck. I know it's a grind when you try to make it in country music, and it's just been nice following him. It's just nice to know that our listeners tune in on a regular basis. I appreciate all of you in the chat mob. So this is just a shout out for all of our excellent followers. So,
and Sam, if you're listening to this, if you can get Coach to do a duet with you, I will send you an assembly call T-shirt. So if you can get Coach to record a single with you, I will send him a T-shirt.
Sam has said that I'm welcome in Nashville, and he's going to take me all to the behind the scenes places where a lot of the real good music gets made. So we might have to, but he's writing songs for a lot better artists than me. But okay. So now it's time for the rest of our mailbag. All questions were submitted via our private IU basketball discussion community, which you can learn more about and join at assemblycall.com/community. And we have a few Bahamas questions. So we'll talk about the upcoming trip to the Bahamas. Matt Moore says this: what information do you think we will get from the games Indiana plays in the Bahamas? I heard they don't want video of it out. Will we get a written account, box scores, etc.? If we don't get much information at all, do you think that is a good idea, seeing that there is so much excitement surrounding the new staff and players? Shouldn't Indiana embrace the love of its fans and keep feeding the frenzy? Your thoughts, Ryan, from a sports writer's take on a trip like this?
Yes, there should be loads of information available. I mean, that's, as a sports writer, that's, what I want to see. I'm sure fans want to see it too. And Indiana needs to embrace the fact that fans are a big part of this. And you want excitement going into the season, beef up excitement. Now, I get it. If you lose one of these games, it's going to be tough or you're going to tamp out some of the excitement. But I think that you've got to spin it like in a positive that, we lost, but did you see what this guy, did and how good he was? And we're really just trying to work out and come together. And we've got a lot of promising guys. I mean, that's your job as an athletic department and as a coach to spin everything in a positive direction. So I would like to see as much information as possible out about these games, but I realize that, we may not get everything we want. I think they should be televised on IU's website or something, IU Sports website or something. I know they're not going to do that, but man, put some stuff out there to get people excited, post some highlights, do things like that. You've got to get that out there.
I think I've heard that they're allowing media outlets 2 minutes of highlights, a 2-minute film, which I said earlier was going to be the most watched 2 minutes of each game. Do you think that there'll be a written account, a play-by-play, a box score like they do in a normal on IU's account, where you can go by the play-by-play and see what happens? You see the minutes, shooting percentages, things like that we can discuss in a couple of weeks, or are they going to keep that quiet as well?
I just think that they should. They certainly should. I don't know what they're going to do, Coach. I really don't, but they certainly should release as much as possible. But, I don't know what they're thinking, but that's what I would say is they should release as much as possible.
Chad, you do know that there are apps on your phone where you can keep box scores, right? Like you can keep a running tab of who rebounds and everything. You got a spotter, your dad's going, he could be your spotter and tell you who got the rebound, who missed where, and you can just keep it and then forward to us. Your thoughts on the non-televised, non-radio part of this trip? I'll put my 2 cents in as a coach at the end.
Well, Do I dare be greedy and say I don't really care about that because I'm going to be there? No, but no. I mean, that's the great thing for us, Assembly Call and stuff, folks, is that I'm going to try to soak in as much as I can, and you better believe I'm going to be here on this show the Thursday after them to try to recount the best that I can about it. Also, Jared said I may take over the Assembly Call Twitter. Either that or definitely go and follow me on Twitter at General Chadwick. That's my handle on Twitter. I might try to do quick little videos right afterwards just to purge the information that's in my head. I'm definitely going to take a notebook and try to take little notes as we go along. But as we talked about before the show, Coach, I'm less concerned about the numbers per se and more about what we see as far as schematics and playing and who's playing and what lineups and everything go. And here's, I guess, another plug for the community and everything. I'm going to maybe put a post right before I go if anyone has certain things they want me to look for and comment on as we go, as Coach has already probably filled up my list of that. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to soak in as much as I can from this and come back on this show and recount what I can remember to you guys.
From a coaching standpoint, you're putting in new things and you want to have an advantage at the start of the season to where people only have a week or two to plan ahead for you. We don't tape and share our scrimmages in high school. And so I kind of get that from a coaching standpoint. You don't want that out where everyone doesn't know what he's running, doesn't know what defense there, and start building a database of what Indiana's all about. I kind of get that, and coaches are really tough and wanting to keep that stuff secret. So I kind of understand why it's not being televised a little bit, and the film, they don't want people to film. I have buddies at pro training camps, and they don't want people filming stuff for the very same reason. They don't want it out on Twitter because other people are mining for information. The reality is, someone said, I think Matt, the guy who asked the question in the community, said, is Jim Boeheim really going to spend a lot of time, scouring the Bahamas trip for information? Sometimes we coaches get a little bit too protective of that, but I do think that hopefully they have box scores and a written story about, any kind of run or first half. This is what happened. I think you got to keep the momentum flowing for that.
Even if they don't post it, I'll look around for any sheets of paper that might be
snap
hanging
some
out
by the media.
Yeah.
Jeff Marlowe says, "What are the expectations for the Bahamas trips besides a good time with your dad, Chad? What are you expecting from the Hoosiers to get out of this trip?"
Well, not only what's on the court and what we've said with those extra practices and everything, but as they've said, and as you've watched the great program that was on BTN about the guys during the Euro trip and everything like that, just a chance for the team to bond again, get in other situations. I mean, I know Coach doesn't like seeing them, but the guys playing on the boats, Lake Monroe and everything like that. But it's going to be great to see that kind of stuff. And then also even because this past year they haven't been able to be around fans, you better believe I'm wearing IU stuff every moment that I walk around that resort. And I'm going to thank and try to talk to any of those players that I can, keeping socially distant, and I will have my mask on. But just kind of sharing the love, letting them know, the fans, even though they didn't see them or hear them last year, that the positive fans are out there. It's not just those negative ones they're seeing on Twitter. It's not that social media ones, but giving the team that positive, great vibe that Hoosier Nation has. So the off the court is just as good for this team as the on the court is to me.
Ryan, your expectations for the Hoosiers as they embark on this trip?
I want to see development from a few guys, because I mean the new guys, it's going to be a struggle to sort of get through. I want to see Trace Jackson Davis. Is he stepping out on the floor a little bit? Is he better with his right hand? Is he better at handling the basketball? I want to see Rob Finney. Is he going to finally, find some sense of normalcy and regularity to his play? Can Race Thompson step out and hit a three now? What do the new guys add? What's Xavier Johnson look like? What's Miller Kopp looking like? I mean, I think there's a lot there. Where is Tamar Bates in the lineup? Is he coming off? Is he like the third guy off the bench, or are they going to slot him in at 6-man, or maybe even give him a start? I mean, all of that stuff, just information. That's all, I want to get out of this.
I think one of the things I will caution is that Indiana doesn't need to win these games to be in a good position to have a good season. You always play the game to win the game. I'm not going to lie, but there's going to be a lot of players getting playing time. Very rarely in a regular season game are all 13 players going to get some time. I almost can guarantee you, barring an injury or some reason that they can't play, everyone who's available to play will play some minutes, and that might not be optimal. So, be careful to either get too excited with 2 wins or to be disappointed with a loss here or there. The playing of the game is what matters, to get it on tape, to get back in Bloomington, to watch on film, and to implement the system that Coach Woodson wants offensively and defensively. These practices matter, and game film is just tremendously important. So my expectations are they're going to go and they're going to play hard, and we're going to get a flavor for the new coach and the new system. But I don't have expectations that it's, you got to win, or you got to do this, or you got to shoot 50% from 3, or it's panic time. This is just good all around.
Well, I think
Bob,
you nailed it there. Like we said, though, I mean, we need to put it in our heads as fans that it's way more important for the coaching staff to try new things and figure something out with this team and take a risk and have a loss than just going for the win. As we said, right. You could put your best players on, you can whoop on this team or whatever, which again, they're not going to. There's some decent competition on this team that they're playing against, but it's so much more valuable to find out something hidden about this team that the coaching staff didn't know before that gets on film than it is to add a W in a game that doesn't matter on the stats.
Ryan, remember, this is Bob Thompson. He produces all of our music on here. He asked your favorite question. Kaleb Banks player comp. You're muted, bud.
Good, because I just said no. It's no, I don't do player comps. I'm sorry. If you want to talk about, a development curve he should be on, I mentioned it in the scouting report, OG Anunoby. That should be the development curve. Guy with some size and athleticism, incredible length, should become a versatile wing. It's a matter of developing and getting it there. And it was a work in progress for OG Anunoby too. It took some time, but he should be able to do that. OG was more defense oriented, I think, than Kaleb is. But I think that there's certainly a development curve there.
He said a lot of different words there, but that sounded like a player comp,
nope,
guys.
Was not a player comp.
All right, our next question. Campbell Overly said, I saw that Hoosier Hysterics are doing something for NIL. Do you guys have any plans for NIL? I'll take that. I don't know any. I know Jared always reaches out for some of the sound bites and some of the things. We have not talked as a group or finalized anything yet with any athletes. I'm assuring that if that's available and it's something that we decide to do, that we will look into that. But right now, the answer is not yet. Terrence Harper says, I just saw that Hood Schifino has cut his choices down to 5 and IU's still in the mix. How good is a chance he'll pick IU? Ryan, your thoughts on maybe where we stand? Again, I don't follow the recruiting.
With
real
who?
tough
I'm sorry.
to get
cut
with Hood Schifino.
I think they got a chance. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the young man's mind, but I think they've got a chance. I think they're as in it as anybody else. Will he pick them? I don't know. I mean, there have been recruits I was 100% sure we were going to get who didn't come, and there have been guys I thought Indiana had no chance with who did. And so you never know. I mean, these are, again, 18-year-old kids. 17, 18-year-old kids, they make decisions for whatever reason, and they're hard to predict. But I think Indiana's in a very good spot for him. I would say that. That's not a prediction, but I think they're in a very good spot.
And our last question, we'll just go round table, start with Chad. What's your guess on what's going to happen? This is from Jim Tom Hoosier. What is going to happen next in conference realignment? Chad, your thoughts, either what you think might happen, you like it, don't like it, anything goes for this question. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's a messy situation. Obviously, Ryan's more in depth and in the mix over there for that kind of stuff. It's the money. It's all money. It's follow the money where the money's going. There would be some stuff, obviously, conference wise, that I'd like to see, is just far as even within our own Big Ten, East and West. I'd like that even just mixed up a little bit for a change. But I don't know. You follow the money. It's gonna change every year. But if something does tip with the rumors that are happening now, I definitely could see it as a domino effect and other things piggybacking on that plan and moving on from there. I don't know. Ryan, going to you.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, we'll see where this all goes. It's uncharted territory,
I think Kansas is not a bad pickup for the Big Ten. But I think the Big Ten's got to be aggressive, unfortunately. I'd like to see it stay at 14. I didn't like it when Maryland and Rutgers came in. Kansas does nothing money-wise football, really. I know that's according to Galen and everyone. That's the reason that these conferences are shifting. But
I think there was a lot of momentum for everybody to do everything about 2 weeks ago, and I think that has kind of cooled down a little bit. And so that's why I say I don't know. I mean, we're in a spot where 2 weeks ago it was like there's going to be 2 super conferences and that's going to be it. And now we're kind of like, no, the Pac-12 and Big 12 might partner on a, playing series, but not join conferences. And now it's like, we don't know. I like, it felt like 2 weeks ago, everybody was going to join the SEC. It was just going to be one big conference. Now it's kind of like, yeah, they're looking at people, but who knows? Clemson reached out and they were kind of like, nah, I don't know. So we don't know what the fallout's going to be from this. And I don't know who the Big Ten. I look at the Big Ten. I'm like, who's attractive to pick up? Legitimately,
That's
who's
tough.
attractive?
Kansas, from a basketball standpoint, would be pretty cool. I think
football is what matters.
Football is what drives.
Yeah.
West Virginia, if you could get them in the.
I had to listen to everybody say.
I
had to listen to everybody say that USC was going to join the Big Ten a couple weeks ago, and I said, guys, it's highly unlikely that's going to happen. USC is not going to put itself in a situation where it has to travel across the country 6 times a year to play 6 or 7 times a year to play football games, and while everybody else gets to play everybody in their neighborhood. Like, it's highly unlikely that's going to happen. Now, if USC came in with like 6 other teams and could play mostly regionally and then go play Ohio State or Michigan or, whatever, that makes more sense to bring the LA market into the Big Ten. But, USC and UCLA are not going to join and then put themselves in a massive disadvantage flying across the country every week. Like, it's not logical. Could that happen if something crazy happens? Yeah, sure. But what I would say about it is we don't know what's going to happen and we don't know what the next plan is. The SEC is clearly ahead of everybody in making these decisions. But I also think Texas and Oklahoma saw the Big 12 not doing well and said, where can we go? Oh, there's a conference not that far away that's making more money than anybody.
I think eventually you'll see 4 power conferences with 16 teams,
probably
for football, and just eliminate the Big 12, and they'll split to the Big 10, West Virginia maybe to the ACC, and there'll be some realignment there. I don't like that being a traditionalist, but Jim Tom, that's what I think is next. Is you might see further erosion of the Big 12. And split and going to the West, to the PEC, or to the Big 10, or to the ACC, picking up pieces. That's just, again, I don't have any information more than that. So any final thoughts, everybody? We'll go around. Chad, your final thoughts tonight?
Hey, just excited, getting geared up to go to the Bahamas. And again, I'm going to do my damnedest to soak in as much information for you guys as I can.
And we want a great report. This is pressure.
Hey.
Ryan, your last thought.
My last thought is I'm insanely jealous of Chad for getting to go to the Bahamas.
No kidding.
That's about where it cuts off right there. That's my final thought on the night.
That's a great father-son trip. We wish you well, and we look forward to hearing from you.
That's it. We're done. No more questions.
Well, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Assembly Call. If you want to see us do the show live, join us at assemblycall.com on Thursday nights for the live broadcast of our Assembly Call radio recording. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for producing a lot of the music that you hear on the show. And thank you for listening. We'll talk again next week. Sooner if anything breaks.
Take it from me, Yogi Ferrell. Keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim. And go Hoosiers.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
You might get beat today, but each day you got to get better.
All right. Good show.
Yeah.
It was about 4:40 or something when Jared said, "Hey, Coach, can you put the show together?" And I was like, "Oh, crap. I better find something to talk about."
Yeah.
But he does a good job with those run sheets that you just have to fill in.
I got a new autograph you can see behind me on my flag. It's Jeff Newton.
Nice.
Him and George Leach have a barbecue place here in Charlotte.
Yeah,
for BBQ.
And they bring their trailer around to my neighborhood a couple times, and so I make a point to go grab it from him each time. It's actually pretty appropriate for the with the Banks commitment, another Atlanta guy. But I was geeking out definitely too, because from that I have George Leach's cell phone that I send to when I want orders and stuff like that. Trying not to abuse it.
You do have cell phone right now. Are there charges from the Bahamas, or can you still text the coach on a Friday night?
We'll see. Well, like I said, I can maybe the Wi-Fi is probably good enough. We could do. We could get on one of those.
Hey,
Zooms
there's my
together.
guy Sam. My shout out, the guy from Nashville.
Hey.
We enjoyed the concert last week, Sam. We were talking about how great a find Cameron Marlowe was right there at the start of segment 3. So good to see you in the chat, my friend.
Now, Sam, listen back if you didn't, but I have an offer here. If you get Coach, if you write a song for Coach and you record him singing this and send it to me, find me on Twitter. I will send you an assembly call T-shirt, buddy.
Oh, I need to find time to get down to Nashville. I need a hit of that.
Just figure out his favorite beer. Just message his wife, find out his favorite beer. Just put a few in him. He'll probably sing. Richie knows. Actually, Richie, talk to Richie. He knows what it takes.
All right, everybody. I'm going to sign off.
Yeah.
Do
Thanks
appreciate
for coming,
everyone.
Yeah, no problem.
Chad,
Jerk
yep.
gets to go to Bahamas.
Hey, you got to go
his
to
hat on.
Maui.
Oh,
wait.
No, I didn't. Yeah. Thanks for reminding me, though.
I will say,
do.
wearing the hat, I did have to fight the urge all show to not interrupt you guys.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And the hat is the reason. It's not my normal.
No,
it's not me. It's the
I can
hat.
attest, guys. It is. It's the hat that does something. I don't know if it's pushing on a pressure point back here in your brain. I don't know.
Later, guys. I'm out of
All
here.
right. Thanks, guys.
We'll
Have a
see
good
you
night.
guys. Yep.